I'm doing it because our next speaker, he's all like proper and trim, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm a businessman, 50 years old and that.
Okay, so you're mimicking him, yeah?
Well, I just wanted to show him a bit of respect, didn't it?
Fair enough, yeah.
Guys, listen, our next speaker is someone who is very close to me, and is someone who, since being on Freshly Grounded, has been he actually is referred to by a lot of you guys as uncle. And that should give you guys a clue as to who I'm introducing. He is literally my uncle, and he's someone who, his personal story that he shared on both Freshly Grounded and Almost podcast touched the hearts of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. And he continues to do so. As I mentioned before, he came from literally looking for, and I always say this, but it kind of defines kind of the outlay of his life, that he was looking for pennies in his council flat in Hounslow under the sofa so that he could help pay his bills, him and his wife. And he worked all sorts of jobs, cab driver, shelf stack in Tesco, and he worked his way up to working for the world's most profitable company. And he's here to share his journey. And I personally believe that after this journey, whether it's through laughter or through sadness, there won't be a dry eye in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for my uncle and yours, Uncle Rahman Akhtar.
How are you doing?
You're
You good?
Yeah.
Thank you. A lovely introduction. I'll pay you later. Hey Sam,
so
how's it going?
Enjoy. Take care.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum. How's everyone doing today? This all feels very surreal to me. 2 days ago, I'm sitting at my desk in Saudi Arabia, working away. I hop on a plane on Thursday, and Friday I arrive here in London town, my hometown. This is where I'm from. This is where I grew up. Came from Pakistan at the age of 4, speaking zero English, speak a little bit more now. And yes, I am really Faisal and Omar's real uncle. Their mom is my sister. And what a lovely feeling it is, suddenly having all these adopted new nephews and nieces amongst me. Do I have to give you all Eidis now, Eid? That's what's worrying me, bruv. But inshallah, I do really feel honored and privileged. I want to thank Faisal and the Freshly Grounded crew and all the sponsors today for giving me this wonderful platform to be able to speak to you guys and girls. And hopefully, if I can just touch a few hearts in this audience today, to think about things in a slightly different way, I will be a happy man, and the airfare will have been worth it to come here. So, gosh, where do I start? It's been an incredible journey. Has been a really incredible journey to be here today. It's been an emotional one, and Faisal's given you a little bit of an intro from where the start was. I want to start by saying that I'm a very, very ordinary person, okay? I want to state that from the start. I'm nothing special. Alhamdulillah, I'm an ordinary person who's been given the opportunity by Allah to live an extraordinary life. And I'll do a quick presentation to you today, talking about what I've done and what my decision points were, how I made those decisions. And I hope that you get the feeling that life is a bit simpler than we all make it. I see a lot of young kids at the moment stressed out about life, stressed out about their careers, stressed about finding the right partner in life. Who am I going to marry? Are they going to be the right person for me? How am I going to get ahead in my career? How am I going to become this real millionaire with a big house and fancy cars? I'd like you to see a little bit of truth in my presentation. So, Kareem, if I could have the presentation on the screen, please. I've entitled it, Impossible is Nothing. I'd like to start off at the beginning, around about I was 11 years old, and this is what life was for me on a daily basis when I was around 10, 11, living on a housing estate right here in London. And I don't know if there are any parents in the audience today who grew up at the same time as me in the 60s and 70s perhaps. You remember that it was pretty normal to be beaten up outside for no reason except the color of your skin. So I was bullied quite aggressively, and it was a daily part of my life. I would come home with a thick nose and bloody lips, and my mom even got used to it. Yeah, okay, he's in again, and what could you do about it? So, the first impossible that I was ever presented in my life was, it's impossible to beat bullies. And I'd like to show you that you can be presented with as many impossibles as you like in your life. But they don't have to mean anything, because impossible is actually just a word. It's nothing. And I was told that it's impossible to take control of my life. This is what society was telling me. This is what my circumstances were telling me. I was being told that I am a victim of my circumstance. How many people here don't achieve what they want to do in life and they blame their circumstances? I am not born into a rich family, or I don't have the kind of background I need to become a doctor. I don't have the contacts. Nothing. It doesn't mean a thing. My turning point came at that age of around 11, when one day I had a bit of an argument with someone. It was a normal argument. He pushed me, I pushed him back, and that was the end. Or so I thought. About 20 minutes later, his elder brother came to visit me. And I remember I was sitting on the pavement, and he walked up to me. He didn't say a word, right? He didn't say a word, because obviously his brother was going to tell him. And he took a run at me and kicked my face like a football, as a goalkeeper would kick a football. And my face went flying. I was 11, he was about 18, 19, right? With his Dr. Martin boots, if you remember those, with the steel toe caps. And then he proceeded to kick me again in the face, and again, until I was unconscious. And I ended up in hospital. I remember lying there and Mum just being so upset that she could hardly recognize me. And something happened in that moment to me. Something clicked inside of me. I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to play the victim anymore in my life. I needed a weapon to fight back. I was too little to fight back with anything like a hockey stick or a bat. So I chose this. I chose a microphone. There was a local talent contest happening, and I could tell a good joke in those days as well. So I thought, I'm going to go up and do some stand-up comedy, right? So I did it in front of 300 people, and it's rather like an audience here, 300 people out there. So I wanted to prove my bullies wrong. I'm not a victim. It's not impossible to get out there and do this. And I stood in front of 300 people, and to cut a long story short, at the end when they announced the prizes, they announced a third place, second place, and then they said, in first place, with a 60 out of 60, so all 6 judges gave me 10 out of 10, Rahman Akhtar. Thank you. Thank you. You cannot believe what that did for me. It was 1974, I was 11 years old, and I suddenly went from being a victim to feeling 10 feet tall. Suddenly that brought an inner confidence in me that I'd never experienced before in my life. And suddenly I realized I could do anything I want. And the next thing I wanted to do was I wanted to become a pilot. I thought, I want to fly planes. I want to get out into the air and look down. I want to be a solo pilot. But my dad didn't have the money. We didn't have the contacts. I didn't have some uncle in PIA who could talk me into being a pilot. But I thought, no, I can do this. I can do this. Cut a long story short, I was told it's impossible for a teenager to fly a plane. Wrong. By 16, I was one of the youngest pilots in the UK flying gliders, right? Alhamdulillah. And I was only flying gliders because it's illegal to fly powered aircraft before you're 18, right? And by 18, I was the president of the flying club at the City University, and I got my pilot's license a little while after that. So just to show that any dream you have, if you're determined enough, you don't need the contacts. We certainly didn't have the money, but I found a way. You can find a way to do it. What's the next impossible I was faced with? Well, fast forward to the time I went to Saudi Arabia, and I was offered this job in a company I'd never heard of, in a country that I never ever thought I would live in. But how many people here are afraid of change? we go through a lot of change in our lives, right? Yeah, brave ones. I see some hands going up. I'm afraid of change. We're all afraid of change. But you have to manage that change. And you have to overcome that fear to find that amazing place that you go in life. So I was offered a job in Saudi Arabia. And I've been in the UK all my life, since the age of 4, so more than 30 years. I thought, gosh, how am I going to take this change? Because it's a whole different country. Being a Muslim helps, I guess, because you're familiar with the culture. But they have a whole, how many people have been to Saudi Arabia? Just put your hands up. Okay, so maybe Umrah and all this kind of stuff, right? There's a whole lot of hugging and a kissing going on there, isn't there? Huh? Same sex, of course, astaghfirullah, right? So much. And I grew up in the UK, right? Where we have something called the invisible line around our body. It's a man's comfort zone, right? And as Pakistanis and Indians, perhaps we're okay with hugging and kissing because we're really into that as well. I swear to God, I go to Pakistan, I shake hands sometimes with complete strangers, and they don't let go, do they? So, all right, I've got the handshake done, mate, all right. Half an hour later, you're still holding that man's hand. And you see, it's quite normal to see men holding hands walking down the road. Yeah? And it's not just holding hands, it's that romantic hand hold, isn't it? It's where the fingers intertwine with each other. Oh, my God. So coming from here, it was so awkward. But I went to Saudi Arabia. I thought, I can do this. And, when the first week there, I saw these two men kissing. And they have very different types of kissing in Saudi Arabia. They do. Just a bit of education for you, in case you ever go out there. So there's the very simple kiss, and that's it, one in each cheek. And then there's a much more complex maneuver, and then there's a nose touching that they do as well, right? You've seen that? That they touch noses. Now, I went over there, and I was really confused. And I thought, well, when they do this, how do they know? Because they seem to know the rules. Who follows? Who leads, for a start? They're both men. Do you email each other in the morning? And go, yeah, Hussein, today we are going for the 1-3 combination. Because they never seem to meet in the middle, do they? They're not by mistake. and when white people go out to work in Saudi Arabia, they know about the invisible, the line, yeah? So they go, hello, Mr. Jones, how are you doing? Right. But me being a brown British guy, every now and then my boss will shake my hand and I'll feel a little tug on his arm. I think, oh God, he's going for the kiss. I'll go into panic mode. Which way? Which way? But look, I'm an engineer. So I like to come out with not just problems, but solutions. So I've been thinking about this big time, and I think I've come up with a solution to the Saudi kissing problem. Now, maybe you could do geographical-based kissing, like they do in France. In France, if you're in Paris, you kiss a number of times. In north of France, you kiss a certain number of times geographically. So we should do that in Saudi. Maybe Riyadh, it's the capital. Let's keep it dignified. Khalas, right? Jeddah's more open-minded. Yeah, baby, go for whatever you like. Freestyle. Hugs, kisses, Pakistani style. Go. And maybe in the eastern province, where I live in Dhahran, maybe you can just stick to the nose touching. That would be cute, right? But there is a little bit of risk analysis you have to do in case you have a short nose and long lips. Be careful, Yaki. Be careful. So, all in all, we took the decision, and I thought, yes, let's go to Saudi. And it was the single best decision I've ever taken in my life. Absolutely the single best. I've been there 18 years now. We went with our young kids, who Nadia and Wasim. They were 5 and 7 at the time. I'll talk a little bit more about them later. But it was an amazing place to go. But I had a secret weapon when I came to making that decision about going to Saudi Arabia. This was my secret weapon. My wife, Shafia. I married Shafia 30 years ago. I would not be standing on this stage here now today if it weren't for my wife, Shafia. She is the strength behind everything I've done in life. And I've only been able to do the things that I've achieved in life, firstly, of course, because of Allah and my parents, and then Shafia's complete, unconditional love and support. Unconditional. So, Faisal mentioned at the beginning that I had times in my life where we didn't even have tuppence to rub together. We literally were looking for money to feed the kids. I stacked supermarket shelves. I cleaned toilets at McDonald's. I worked as a taxi driver. But I did what I needed to do to raise my family. And you know the bit that allowed me to do that? Shafia didn't complain 1 second. I was a graduate, and she did not 1 minute say to me, "What the hell are you doing with your life, Rahman?" She said, "I know why you're doing it, and the future is bright, inshallah." And she used to send me out with pride to drive that cab or to clean those toilets or to stack those shelves. And that's why I credit everything that I do today to Shafia. What's the next one? So stand-up comedy has been a part of my life ever since I was 11. And I got to do some really neat stuff. I got to perform with people like Russell Peters. You guys know him? Somebody gonna get hurt real bad. Yeah, that's right. So Russell and I have done a few shows together. I've opened for Omid Jalili, and I've done shows on the BBC, and it just has been a part of my life. Whatever else I've been doing, I've also been doing stand-up comedy. And I've had the pleasure of traveling around the world doing comedy. It's always been like a part of me. And I use humor in my presentations, and even the work I do for Saudi Aramco, I'm known for audience engagement, and I do that through humor. So I was told this impossible when I got there. And the first guy I remember, he said to me, "Yaqi, I heard you are a very funny guy, but there are some things in Saudi Arabia we do not talk about." I said, "Okay, I'm new here, so would you like tell me what I can't talk about on stage?" Sex, drugs, politics, rock and roll, music, gender jokes, male, female, royal family, but everything else is no problem. Okay, right? But I managed to prove them wrong. We set up a show called Rahman and Friends Comedy Show, but here's what we did. We made it halal. Right? Okay. I realized that the only way that you could do it, now comedy has really taken off big time, and we were the pioneers of comedy around about 11, 12 years ago. But what we realized is that it's very easy to make people laugh by using crudity and naughty words and swear words. I said to my comedians one thing. I brought them in. We had this show, about 8 comedians in the show. I want you to imagine your mother is sitting in the audience and your brother is sitting next to her. I don't want either of them to feel uncomfortable. That's it. That's your editing. And we branded. We got a brand called Rahman and Friends, all right? And it became one of the biggest selling shows in the Gulf. And we were sold as a product. This is one of the first shows we did. And it went on to do great things. And we had expats who came to our shows. This is the line going into one of our shows. And the Saudi people came and really enjoyed it. These are our chief sponsors. There was a bank that sponsored our show. But it was, alhamdulillah, it's on YouTube. So if you type in Rahman and Friends on YouTube, you'll find lots of shows there. Don't do it now. Listen to me. Right? But we had an absolutely amazing, amazing time. And as I said, we gave Saudi Arabia a little bit of a better press because Saudi Arabia doesn't enjoy good marketing. Average person you talk to in maybe America or the UK, they just think that all the women are oppressed and the men are terrorists. Is that right? Me, having lived over there for almost 2 decades, I know the opposite is true. Stick with me, come on. So we had amazing shows there, and it really allowed us to get out there and to show Saudi in a better light. We had the first DVD of comedy, but we applied that main principle, that it's a family show in a family environment. We did mixed audiences, so we had expats, locals, people from all around the Gulf as well, and it was a very successful product, alhamdulillah. Funnily enough, I gave up full-time comedy a little while ago to focus more on the family a few years ago, but I still get asked to do various shows where people won't take no for an answer. That leads me to 2017, one of the happiest years of our lives for me and Shafia and the kids. You remember little Nadia and little Wasim, who were our kids when we went to Saudi? Well, they both got married in 2017. Right? So they both found wonderful partners. Nadia found a lovely guy called Azhar, and Wasim is married to a beautiful girl called Arwa. And Nadia just made me a grandfather a few months ago. So life is going on, right? Life goes on. So that was an amazing year for us. Both our kids got married in those years. We have a young son called Haroon as well, who keeps me nice and young. He's 13, and he's just moved to UK to study here now. So he's moved from Saudi. And then, after 2017, I'm afraid the lights went off in our lives. Wasim got married in December 2017. And we were all there in Pakistan for the wedding in Rawalpindi. Shafia started feeling ill. And it got so bad during the weddings. She obviously attended the weddings, but by the walima, it got to the point where she'd become so weak that she couldn't even walk. And this is the time of our son's wedding. I took the decision on the 31st of December 2017 that Shafia, you can't go to the walima, neither can I. I need you to go to hospital. I need you to be looked after. She argued and said, no, there's just only one event left. I want to go. I said, no, I care more about you than I do the walima. We've had the weddings, we've had the nikah, everything's done. So we had this incredible situation back home that everyone left home for my son's walima. We were left alone, Shafi and I. And we called an ambulance, which was going to take her to Lahore. The ambulance driver came in, and he was going to put her on the stretcher. She said, no, Rahman, I don't want him to touch me. I want you to put me on the stretcher. So there I was. Everyone's at the walima. I'm taking my wife, picking her up and putting her on a stretcher. And then I put her in the ambulance. And we were on our way to Lahore. Both of us in tears. We were both crying our eyes out because we were watching our son's wedding on WhatsApp video on the phone. Got to Lahore, and her situation deteriorated even further. And 5 days later, she left us. It's very hard to describe my emotions at that time and what I went through. But I'd like to maybe explain how I dealt with it and where I am now. 5 more minutes? Terrific. That's all I need. I was presented with one of the biggest impossibles of my life, and one I was not expecting to have. It's impossible to live life without your partner. We were expecting to grow old together. We were expecting to enjoy our grandchildren. Never happened. So how do you deal with that? I wanted to prove this impossible wrong as well, just like I'd proved all the other impossibles wrong. I sought refuge in this verse from the Quran. If Allah knows any good in your hearts, He will give you something better than what has been taken from you. He will give you better than was taken from you. And I, at the moment, cannot imagine who better for me could be than Shafia. It's been 20 months now. We're going almost to the point. And only last week did I have the courage to change my Facebook profile from married to widowed. It took me that long. So, where am I now? This is me. I say Alhamdulillah, first of all. Alhamdulillah that Allah let me stay with an angel for 3 decades. Alhamdulillah. And I focus on those positives. What an amazing life we lived together. It was a terrific life. My mission continues. We were co-pilots on an aircraft. I've just lost my co-pilot. I still have passengers to get down on the ground. Our children. I'm going to become a better version of myself because I've lost Shafia. Right? I'm going to cherish the absence. In the time that she's left me, I've become more engaged at work. I'm working harder on my business. I've lost 18 kilos in weight, so alhamdulillah. Take that, Silver AJ. I've got a six-pack just fighting to get out. But I'm becoming a better version of myself because I owe it. I owe it to Shafia, first of all. Because if she could see me and I was sitting there depressed with looking at my feet, she'd be the first to be angry. So I have a responsibility to my late wife to be happy, and then to my children. We lived our lives by making happy memories, and now it's my responsibility to make happy memories with my children, my family, and everyone. All right? And I have one last surprise for you before I leave you. Do you remember that time in December 1974 when I won that talent contest? And in those days, we didn't have phones and no photographers or anything like that. I would have loved to show you a photo of that time. Well, someone reached out to me on Facebook the other day, said, are you that Rahman actor who won that comedy show back in 74? I said, yeah, who are you? She said, I came second. And she swore at me. And she said, do you still have that photo that you had? And I said, what photo? She goes, well, the newspaper photographer, he gave a photo to all the winners. I said, I didn't get one. She goes, what? You mean this one? And it was like seeing a ghost. This is me with the false nose and the little glasses and my dad's namaz cap on, right? And the cap. But that was the day that sometimes I say, well, that's the day my life changed. But then wait, it's not the day my life changed. It's the day I changed my life. I changed it by taking an action. And that action, that one action when I was 11, brought this whole life for me. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my nephews and nieces, it's taking action that works. And not being afraid of taking action. And marrying the right person. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing you should do. I know some of you, it might be too late. All right, sorry. But marrying the right person, all right? So my journey is going to continue, right? I guess, inshallah, about 2/3 of my way through life. I'm 4 years from retirement. But I am going to continue living life to the max in honor of my wife. In the audience today is my mother, and she's here. Hi, Mom, wherever you are. And lots of, obviously, nephews and nieces. Well, now hundreds of nephews and nieces. And I have my daughter here today. Here you go. She's waving up there. And she had to sit in the box because she has my grandson with her. So can you just like wave, Yusuf? There you go. So that is the grandson that Shafia. It's a grandson that Shafia never got to see. But I'm going to fulfill one ambition. One main ambition in my life now is to attend Yusuf's wedding. I'm going to attend your wedding, beta. I am going to be there, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Wow.
Wow.
I've obviously heard that story many times because I was like involved in it. We were in Pakistan at the time at the wedding, and I was up there just now, sat next to Ilyas, and as he's telling the story, you can't help but just well up, man. I was like trying to fight back my tears. It's such an empowering story, and his wife, my mommy, was an amazing person. So.